No, and you know that I cannot talk about any player that is not with us. There's still time in the market, both ways, for all the managers, for all the teams here, and you can tell how busy it's getting.
Can we assume it's something that is going to happen soon?
I don't assume. The full focus is on the players that we have at the moment, the big match that we have tomorrow against Aston Villa, and that's where we're at.
I think I'm going to get a similar answer, but I'm going to ask about Eddie and Katia leaving the club as well, and there's interest from Nottingham Forest. Do you expect Eddie to go over the next week?
I expect Eddie to train with us today to be prepared for tomorrow, and that's it. And whatever happens, it will happen if it's good for everybody.
Moving on, I assume you've always had belief, but when you look at the squad now, do you see belief that maybe wasn't there 2 years ago? Bit of a surprise. Arsenal were in the title race 2 years ago. You obviously got a lot closer last season. When you look at your players now, do you sense that they feel it's their time?
I always had that feeling and believe in our players that we have to trust them. I have to trust them. You know, that's the only way to get the best out of your team, out of your individuals, and we always have them. Is to achieve what level? That's something else, you know. But obviously, we know what we want. And it's not other thing that perform at the highest level every game to earn the right to win it. And tomorrow is no difference. It's the second game, and this is what we're going to do.
And obviously, Aston Villa were the only team to beat you twice last season. What was it that they did particularly well against you, or that you couldn't work out against them?
Well, they scored and we didn't. Very simple. In 2 games, even though we had enormous amount of chances to do that, and that was one of the big difference. There are other details for sure that we have analyzed, and we'll have to do better tomorrow. But yeah, and because they are a really good side, really well coached.
What makes them particularly difficult to play against?
They dominate every aspect of the game. You know, you give them a space to run. They are phenomenal. When they have no space and they have to find spaces, they're able to do that. And in restart set pieces, they are at it. That's why they did what they did.
Just finally from me, 4 of the Premier League managers now are all Basque.
Yeah.
What makes Basque?
Big community, yeah?
Yeah, I mean 20% of the Premier League managers are...
Go to San Sebastian and then come back and then ask me that question. You all have to go there because it's a beautiful place, beautiful
Great
city,
restaurants.
great restaurants, great food, great culture.
What makes you such good football managers then?
Probably the passion and the education that we all got. And then, yeah, we all need opportunities and chances. Someone has to believe in you. I think what Unai and Julian did for us is incredible because they set the standard so high. They won a lot. The way they coached the team, the way they represented the clubs, it was at the highest level. So I think that gave a platform for the youngest one like myself, like Xavi, like Andoni, probably to end that curiosity, say, okay, maybe there are coaches here as well. So I think we have to be very grateful to those two.
Do you and Andoni and Julian and Unai have a WhatsApp group or anything?
No, we don't. No. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah from KLP.
Hello.
Timber replaced Zinchenko against Wolves for a short time, and he really showed what you've been missing, like aggressive, ball carrier, winning all his duels. With Calafiori added to the squad, can we expect at any point to see him be used as like a midfield alternative as well?
Yeah, he is. He can play in various positions. His versatility is one of the biggest strengths. Obviously, we missed him for 11 months. It's great to have him back. He played some minutes, quality minutes the other day, like Alex did as well. But I think Alex was really good as well, especially in the first 60 minutes against Wolves. And having that capacity in the squad to turn things around and find other things that the team is needing in that moment, I think it's something very valuable.
Players have spoken a lot about how effective you've been in getting the team in the right state of mind. They said this pre-season felt very different mentally as well. How has it been for you mentally as a coach to go through these seasons, develop the project, develop the squad, and keep everyone resilient and yourself ready?
It's great. It gives you so much energy. In our jobs, every day is something new. Someone you want to unveil and try. The players give you so much information, so much to think about. And we have a staff. They're all curious. They all want to get better. They all want to evolve. And this is why transformation happens, because everybody's in the same page on that.
And Declan Rice, he said his best position is a 6, but he loves and gets excited playing as an 8. So in his Arsenal career and future, do we expect to see him as both and develop as both, or do you see him as a 6?
I think so. And at his age, I think it would be a big mistake not to do that and not to have the capacity to play in different positions. And then within the game, he will have a different role in relation to the opponent as well and what they do. And last year he showed that he has the ability to shift from one game to the other, sometimes in the same game, and to have players like that with the short squad that we have is really important. Thank you.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
First away game of the season this weekend. No team took more points than Arsenal in the last 2 seasons away from home. How much confidence can a record like that, past performance, give the team before going to something like that?
That we've done it. That's the confidence. Now we have to show it again, and tomorrow we have to go there, obviously with that belief, being very clear what we want to do and what we have to do to earn the right to win the game, and we'll certainly try to do that again.
One on the guy Saka, he's one away from 100 Premier League wins already at the age of 22. I mean, he can break all sorts of records in his Arsenal career. Is that something that you think he's motivated about, those numbers, and do you use that to challenge him?
That's a question for him. Obviously, when you look at those numbers at his age, is very, very special, especially in the position that he plays. You said a different position that can be more consistent like that, but a rare thing to see, and big credit to him.
Alex from BBC.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
Timber came on in the last match. Is he fit enough to start at the weekend, and could have a fitness update with the rest of the squad as well, please?
Yeah, well, he had a really good pre-season to a point, and then we had to stop him because he had a little issue there, and we didn't believe that he was ready to do that. We have to build him up. We have to be cautious with him, so I'm not sure about that.
And 5 players named in the PFA Premier League Team of the Year. You travelled to Manchester to see the players get their awards. Do you think it's important to show that support to the squad?
Yeah, it was a really proud moment. Obviously, for the second year in a row to have 5 players in the starting 11, it's a big thing. So everybody at the club is really proud of them, really proud of the team. They are there because all the players as well have contributed for them to perform at that level, and obviously all the staff that is involved every day to try to make them better.
You've spoken of how the transfer window is open for all the managers. Will you still be looking for players up until the end of the window? Do you have a number you'd like to bring in?
We have to, because anything can happen both ways, and you have to be ready, and especially in the last week you better be alert and be prepared, because a lot of surprises can come for many different reasons, and we are prepared.
Of course, we are playing tomorrow in Villa Park. It's the first match this year. I am very, very motivated. I am very focused how we can compete as soon as possible in our best level, because some players, they are adapting, they are as well getting our idea, but not completely like I want yet. But of course, tomorrow we have to get our best performances collectively and individually to beat them.
Double over Arsenal last season. Remarkable for a team that scored so many goals and was near the top for goal scoring. Not a single goal against Aston Villa, either home or away.
Yeah, the reason for that is Unai Emery sets his team up superbly well, and he's played with lots of different teams. Sevilla, PSG, Villarreal. It was made up of a team that was made up of lots of rejects from Premier League sides, but got into the Champions League one season, got to the semi-finals of the competition the following seasons. I don't think there are many managers who can set a team up to get a result better than Unai Emery. And I actually think, and this is where I defer to Kevin, that this game's going to be won or lost in the midfield, because it's going to be about who can provide that protection for the back four, but also supply, and as we're seeing here, Villa are so good at being able to play balls in behind the back line. If they can supply that quality to their front line, I think this could be Aston Villa's to win.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be a test of character for Arsenal, because I think probably that's where they lost it last season. Losing them 2 games was a big blow for them. So this weekend is sort of, we mean business, and I think Darren's right. In the middle of midfield is going to be really interesting, because they've lost Douglas Luiz, who was a massive presence for them last year. Brought in Unai, started off life really well last weekend by scoring. So it's going to be interesting to see him over the next coming weeks and see how quickly he settles, and if he can take over that role, what was left by Douglas Luiz.
As a midfielder yourself, Douglas has gone, and he was very well thought of by Villa fans, and obviously the reason why he's gone to a bigger club now. What is it that Onana's got to do that is going to be able to fill that void left by Douglas Luiz? Well,
I think that he's certainly got the quality and the presence to do it. Onana, he's one we looked at really in depth when we were at West Ham. and we really fancied him, and Everton obviously pipped us to him. But it just shows, you know, Unai Emery, he was ready, because if one of his better players is going to leave, he's got the next one ready to come in, and I think he's picked well. And I think what Onana's got to go and do, he's got to go and establish himself as a top midfielder now in what was an exciting team to watch last year, and hopefully will be this year. And I think he brought Ross Barkley in as well, what we were speaking just off camera. And basically, he's got good experience, but then someone who's played in the Premier League and who's got the talent to emerge to be one of the top midfielders in the Premier League as well.
You mentioned West Ham there. Obviously, Aston Villa beating them in the opening game. How impressive were they?
Yeah, I thought they were well worthy winners last weekend. I thought they seemed to have that good balance in midfield, which you sort of look at when someone of Douglas Luiz's calibre goes. But you know, this always helps. This always helps when you get a goal early on in your career, and when you go to a new club, it helps for you as a debutant. I thought they were really unlucky to concede the penalty, but I thought really they played some really good stuff and were well worthy winners in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been difficult for West Ham, because they were trying to fit a lot of players into a new team. I don't know how advisable or inadvisable that is, but they didn't make that too many changes, Villa, to their starting lineup, except for Onana coming. You scored a few goals from midfield in your time. Yeah. That really does settle the nerves, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does. And, you know, from a set piece, they work really hard, and there's something, which I worked really hard with at West Ham in terms of, you know, defensively and attacking. I was with, you know, David, me and him would work one-to-one with it, and we were quite successful. So we would have been really disappointed, you know, for 2 minutes into the season and you're losing a goal from a set piece. So I think that'll be the same with the West Ham backroom staff. And for me, I think with Onana scoring that goal, it's just going to come on leaps and bounds for them. West Ham, I think they only put 2 debutants on.
That's right. Yeah.
So you know, you sort of think, okay, well, where does he go this weekend, going away to Palace, which is going to be a difficult fixture? So it's really interesting. It's really interesting for week one. And I think if you look at all the teams at the beginning of the season, they never really put the debutants in. You know, there's maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. So you know, I'll be really eager to see the team sheets come out tomorrow afternoon.
What about Arsenal? We did not yet get your thoughts on who the main challengers to City are going to be, who's going to win the title. Where do you think they rank this season? What do you think of them? And what did you make of them in the opening game, most importantly?
I thought they were terrific. I thought defensively they were very strong. They were up alongside City with the best defence of last season. And it's quite interesting that where they strengthened was in central defence. Calafiori came in to a defence that was already very strong with Saliba and Gabriel, but that's the platform that they want to use to build on. And as Kevin will tell you, if you get that right, then your front six rather, can go and express themselves. But you've got to get that defence right, and I think that's what they did so very well. Jurrien Timber's going to be like a new player for them, because he missed the whole of last season. Yeah. They've got options at right and left full back. They are a really good, solid, settled back five, and I actually think this could be their season to win it. I
think bringing that centre half, I think that was because Saliba and Gabriel didn't miss a game last year. So it's obviously making sure that they've got that real quality, because if you're going to take City to the last minute, then or the last game and everything else, you're going to need that strength and depth in the squad, which makes it much tougher for Man City to win the league as easy as they have done in the last couple of seasons, I'd say. There's
also that element of revenge for Arsenal, which makes it so exciting. And we talked about it. We heard Arteta talking about it there in his quotes as well. As a player, how much are they remembering those 2 games and taking that kind of hurt with them? Yeah, well, what you don't want them to do, you don't want them to sort of look back on last season and sort of get emotional about it. What you've got to do is go and make sure that you put out a statement to City to say. And I think that they did. They made a better statement than they did the season before. Now it's about them making another statement, and an early one, to say, look, we're going to be with you all the way here this season, because you've set the bar high, but we're willing to now go and match it and even make it higher. And I think that's what Mickey's been trying to do, hasn't he? And trying to instill in his lads in Arsenal that
we're winners and we've got to be winners, and now we've got to start proving
They're
it.
going to be annoyed with me, but I've just got to squeeze one very, very...
We don't expect anything less.
I've just been really fascinated by the messaging. You were stressing what the messaging should be.
Yeah.
And obviously in midweek we saw that story about the pickpockets with Arteta. He had a do.
Yeah.
He hired some pickpockets. They took some stuff from the players, and then he said, "Look, that's a reminder. You've got to be alert at all times."
Yeah.
But the messaging, from your point of view, is that all important in terms of getting the right messages? Because you were just giving us one there in terms of don't look back, look forward, don't get focused on the revenge, focus on the job in hand. How important is that?
Most definitely the most important thing, because as a squad, they've done it. They've took City, they've took them to the wire. But it's all calm while all the storm around them going on. And I remember, when speaking to Mickey after games and stuff like that, his big thing was, we can't listen to the outside noise.
Yeah.
So all this about Aston Villa beating us twice last year, that's gone. Like, this is a different Villa. This is a new Arsenal. This is us now. We're better than we were last season. We're ready, and we've now got to put a statement out, and they're the words and the messaging he'll be putting out. We're not talking about last year no more. We're talking about this year and what we're going to do to try and win that Premier League and snatch it from City's hands.
Wow, fascinating, because obviously for the fans, everyone's all talking about the revenge element, but we are looking forward to that encounter.
And welcome back to the show. We're now in I'm going to call it an educational part of the show for me, as we're going to talk about new players, new signings that have joined over the summer. We're joined by Johnny Whitmore. He's head data analyst at Opta, and he's going to show us a few graphs and help us get to know some of the new signings that we've started to see in the Premier League.
Exactly, that's the plan. So what I'm going to show through today is mostly around Opta radars. So this is a new way of visualizing data. So what it does is it breaks down a load of multiple different data points into one, hopefully, at the end of today, an easy to understand graphic. So a quick overview of style. So we're going to start with Declan Rice. So you can see here 9 different slices, each of which represents a different skill. So you've got the kind of shooting in the offensive metrics in the top right, the more physical metrics down at the bottom, and the more creative in-possession metrics on the left-hand side. So what we've got here is his comparisons against other centre midfielders, compared against top 5 European leagues of the last 10 years. So the bigger the slice you get here, the better they are in that particular skill. So as you can see, Declan Rice is exceptional in almost every skill he has.
He's not doing too bad, is he?
As you would expect. His attacking metrics have really kind of shot up since he's gone to Arsenal again, as you'd expect. So if you take his shots slice there, so you've got 80 in that slice, which means that he's better than 80% of centre midfielders that we're comparing him against.
In that metric,
Wow,
it's a percentile.
So he takes more shots. It's a percentile, exactly.
Doesn't mean he's took 80 shots last season.
No.
Right,
No.
OK. Just wanted to
more,
point that
I
out. So he's a pretty well-rounded player, Declan Rice. He's pretty impressive in all areas.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you said that he's better than 80%, and like aerial duels won is 53%. Now I would have thought he'd be 80% in there. That surprises me.
Yeah, so I guess it's against the population. So it's 10 years worth of players. So I think you mentioned James Milner earlier. There'll be 10 James Milners in here. So you've got 10 years of James Milner. You're against other defensive midfielders, but the ones who are going to win those aerial battles, the Součeks, those sorts of players. So he's still above average.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more towards his role. Maybe he's not having to contest as many aerial duels in that sort of position, particularly at Arsenal, I guess.
And he's taking set pieces as well.
Yes. I mean, both defenders, but the graphs look completely different.
Exactly, and that's why I talk about stylistic differences. So Calafiori's his carries are naturally something everyone probably saw at the Euros. He was one of the kind of better players in an underperforming Italian team. He likes to bring the ball out from the back. You mentioned the fouls committed there. He's in the 82nd percentile.
He's Italian.
Slightly different style.
He gets tight.
Is that why then Arsenal would be looking for a Bologna play similar style so that the data reflects kind of what they want? So it's try and find the team that replicates it, and then who has the best grid that matches that? It's
a huge thing. So most clubs will take data first as the first filter of players. So they'll look for players with the same sort of from the same teams, with the same sort of style. Might look for particular traits that they're looking for. So perhaps Arteta's looking for a player we'll talk in a minute, the John Stones-esque who's going to carry the ball out into midfield. But also, I mean, naturally, Calafiori is the versatile player that Arteta loves.
Your clearances and blocks, I mean, you're looking at a defender, so you're expecting blocks and clearances to be high. But that's all relative to your team having the ball and how much you have to defend within a game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And again, we talk about defensive stats are quite hard to measure for defenders. So you typically get two different types of defender: a front-footed defender who's going to make lots of tackles, engage in lots of duels, or a player maybe Calafiori's naturally, his blocks and clearances are more defensive and sitting back.
Yeah.
But you can see the fouls committed, that's the offensive side of things.
So what other players would Calafiori compare to in the Premier League?
Exactly. So he's more, because he's got those passes, those progressive carries, the natural one you'll see there is Saliba. So they have that similar style, and maybe in that they stand off and wait for players to engage with them. So the blocks, the tackles are a lot lower. But yeah, it's that in possession thing that I think Arteta's looking for out of Calafiori. I saw him at the Emirates a few weeks ago, and he plays centre back and left back, and even then you could see him aggressively coming forwards with the ball and without the ball.
So managers and scouts across Europe and across the world will use this kind of data metric to go and try and find a player that suits their team.
Perfect, exactly. And you've got here, we're only looking at Premier League comparisons, but the data's there for hundreds of competitions across the world. So you want to be finding that hidden gem in South America or Asia, and this is a way you can quickly scout that.
How far down that recruitment road does this take you, though? When you do, is this all right? We've seen this radar. Let's go and get them. That's not what that does, is it?
No, I'd say it's more for either that initial filtering of some very basic, like I want this style of player, and you can look for a few different qualities, or maybe it's towards the end where you're taking this to a director of football, the manager, the head coach, and you really quickly want to say, Calafiori is like this sort of player. This is the general overview of what he plays like. So it's never going to say sign this player, because naturally scouting is a really important part, and those two, data and scouting, should complement each other.
Yeah.
Where do you think he's more likely to play, Calafiori? Is that enough to give that kind of data? I
think you'll have seen when he first was, I think 2 seasons ago, he came up as a youngster at Roma, and he was a fullback by trade at that point. But he then quickly moved. We had a big injury, moved to Basel, where he featured left back and centre back. Yeah. So it's that versatility that I think Arteta's going to thrive on. So you can see the graphic here is the perfect example last season. So once he made that move from Basel to Bologna, his manager was Thiago Motta, and he recognised something in him that while he was a fullback naturally and had those technical qualities, he saw that he wanted to do something a bit different with him. So you can see here he's 94% of the time at left centre-back. Yeah. But really he was in that position, stepping into midfield. Thiago Motta said he struggled to hold him back and keep him in those positions. But I think that's something, the ability to play in midfield for Arteta is brilliant.
It's really interesting, because I think that's a great question from Karen, because at the start of last year, I don't know if Arsenal fans remember, Gabriel was not in the side at the start of the season. And you're thinking now, where Man City are with Akanji and Diaz, they can all carry the ball. Do you think that Calafiori could play with Saliba, and then Arteta's maybe thinking, we can go to another level with him playing this side next to Saliba?
I think so. I think he'll start at left back. I think he's more likely to shore up that kind of defensive vulnerability that we may have seen a few times last season. But because he's got the ball playing, like the technical qualities, he can come inside. He can play in a back three almost with those two. But yeah, we may see him take over Gabriel, but it's quite hard to break up that partnership.
No, exactly.
Well, let's look at an attacking player, a signing for Brighton. One that you'll be more accustomed to seeing.
Well, it's taken us till part 3, but we are going to talk about Arsenal. A 2-0 win against Wolves, and a fairly
business as usual,
steady... It felt like business as usual.
You know something? It was. I was really pleased. I was really pleased with the way it went. I had a feeling that they would come out. They'd come out strong simply because they know what they have to do. You're chasing down City. I'll probably say that's not the first time you're going to hear that this season. And
I tell you what, I feel like just listening to people's predictions, there's
There's a
A
lot.
bit more confidence around Arsenal this season.
You know
I
what,
think, than
Kels?
there
You know
has
what I'm
been over the last
thinking, though,
couple of
guys,
seasons.
Darren, Sean? I'm thinking people are so desperate for someone else to win. They're throwing Arsenal in as you know, the little brother. You go and see if mummy's all right. You know what I mean? It's like, I just feel like, yes, Arsenal are very much challenging for it. We saw that last season.
Only 2 points.
It's only
to
2
make up.
points, but it's still, you know what I mean? And I still fancy them to do it, but it's going to be tough. I thought they started the game very well. There was a spell where Wolves kind of came into it, which was a little bit of a worry, but then we got the next goal, and it felt very military. They got the job done and continue to build now.
Dad, ain't you worried though? Like, I think in terms of Saka, Declan Rice, Saliba, but they haven't had a break. They've basically gone through nearly 2 years, and now they're going into like the third year straight.
You know, it's a good question simply because when you look at those guys, our main guys, Saka, Saliba, Rice, Gabriel, none of those guys, Erdegaard, none of them got injured. It's a big worry. But what was good to see was Saka getting taken off in that
for 10 minutes.
Obviously, you know, I know there's still signings to be made. Some kind of cover for Saka would be helpful because the levels he's getting to, the amount of games he's playing, at some stage, he does need a break. So it was good to see him come off. But at the same time, I love the intensity in which they started the game and the way they ended the game.
Do you know, funnily enough, I'm not going to talk about the offensive. I'm going to talk about defence because they are so good at the back. Yeah. They're so organised, and that is always going to provide the platform, not just for them to compete for the league, but for the offensive players to do what they do best. And I think bringing in Calafiori was a great move because he does give you that depth in that position. But Yuri and Timber looks like a new player, you know, because he didn't have him for the whole of last season. And he is quality anyway, but slotting into a side where he knows now the way to play, he understands what the job is. It just gives Arsenal as a team, as a unit, so much solidity and a great platform.
But that's
to
what
build.
it was last. It was. Listen, what was it? It was 5 goals. I think we scored less than City.
Yeah, 5 goals.
You know what I mean? Losing out by 2 points, Kels, and people saying, "Oh, you're going to buy someone? Do you need to buy someone?" I think if Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus have better seasons, I think they can fill that void of those goals. Yeah. Arsenal know they're going to need to get 90-plus points. And like I say, it was a really business-like start, and now you're hoping that certain players will just step up a bit more, and they're going to need to have that same kind of fortune with the injuries.
What I think is going to be also important is that now they know how high the bar is. They cannot slip. They slipped in December. They lost games against West Ham and a couple of others as well. Fulham as well.
When City were off at the Club World Cup and nobody took advantage.
Nobody took advantage. Then they went to City and they were in a defensive mindset rather than a front foot mindset. That's going to have to change if they want to beat City this time around because City have been very similar to Liverpool. Not that many changes. And yet they still go in with a settled side, same mentality, real hunger. Arsenal going to have to now, with that pickpocket story, I'm sure everyone's heard it already. They had an event. Arteta hired a pickpocket.
It's really weird.
No, it's not.
It's really weird. You should explain it. You should explain it, Darren. Because
So they had an event and Arteta hired a pickpocket to basically go through a few of the pockets and take some of their stuff. And when he told them to turn their pockets out at the end of the night, they were missing some items. And he said, that's a reminder to always be focused on your surroundings.
That is weird.
What are you saying?
What
you're saying? He needs to have a day off. You know something? I just think that we're dealing with.
But do you know what? Do you know what? Sorry, just what I keep thinking about when I hear that story is the player's reaction. You know that second after he said that. See, always be alert. Yeah. And then just the players all sitting around going.
No, I think it's been like very visionary. It's innovative in trying to motivate, finding another way to trying to motivate a set of players that have 2 years have been getting closer and closer and trying to find another way to get them to think about being aware. And I think
the first goal Arsenal concede, though, obviously the comment had his pocket picked.
I just thought it was banter. I just thought it was him having a laugh and the boys reacting the way they would have possibly reacted when they realise all their stuff's gone. And that's most probably when he's come out with, that's why you should be careful with your surroundings, know what's going on, be alert. I don't think it was necessarily for the game.
Also,
it's for a mindset.
hires pickpockets. Like, where does one go?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I need a pickpocket.
I need a pickpocket. I'm fairly sure if the police had access to that,
good point.
and they could just Google how to hire a pickpocket, they
Don't
could
worry,
clean
we'll
up.
pay the bail
See
money.
it on the Instagram.
Pickpocket for sale.
But like, you know something, again, Mikel's done something now that's given people another opportunity to point the finger at him, saying he's trying to find another way to motivate.
Actually, you know what? I do agree with you. I think that we come from an era and everything is changing around us. Technology, the media industry, everything is changing. And the way that that managers communicate with players is changing as well. We are long past the point where a manager can see something in the newspaper, cut it out and pin it on the dressing room wall. We're way past that. We saw in the documentary, he finds lots of different ways to put across the messages he needs to. There's a terrific one where he holds up a light. You're going to laugh at this again. But he holds up a light bulb and he says,
Jesus, Kels, we never even let him finish. I haven't heard the light bulb story.
That's so ruthless. And he says, look, we need to form the connection to the fans that basically creates the electricity in the light bulb.
Brilliant.
But it is a really lovely analogy, and you're right. Everybody's so creative. It is. It's important. No, you're right. It is important to find fresh new ways to communicate. Otherwise, the messages become stale, and
they can't afford to do that.
You can't get that through.
You
can't get through to the players.
I think this season is a test, as much a test of him as it is of the players, because obviously it's that once you finish second 2, 3, 4 years in a row, are you the issue?
Yes.
Maybe us as English people, English men, women, we're looking at the England national team and thinking we had a manager who couldn't get over the line. Maybe people might say that about Arsenal. So it is a little bit incumbent on him to find different ways to get that team over the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.